Hi friends, welcome to EduTap. So welcome to this chapter which is agricultural engineering. First of all, I would like to address that many students find this chapter difficult, but what we will do is we will split this into various sections. We will take the implements one by one and we will make this chapter simple for you guys. And just to begin with, first of all, we have actually covered tractor separately, okay, in a separate video. So before you move on to the content sheet, you can just have a look at that video as well. That would make the points simpler for you guys. Now let us begin with this particular lecture. So the first question that we need to address is what is agricultural engineering, right? So friends, what happens is if you see the day-to-day operations that are performed in agriculture, be it the seedbed preparation or be it the last part, which is nothing but harvesting. In these stages, we are using some or the other tools and implements, right? So what are we doing? We are actually applying engineering to this field of agriculture. So by applying, so what are we doing? We are actually making the jobs simpler. We are making the jobs faster. Okay, we are increasing the efficiency, which ultimately what it would lead to increasing the productivity. Right? So that is why you can see there's a beautiful integration of the engineering as a branch plus agriculture, right? So because of this engineering, we are actually seeing that the efficiency to produce the crops, so the efficiency to do our work in the agricultural field is increasing, right? Now, before we directly jump into the chapter, you need to understand that to perform work, what is required? We require power. Right now, if you see, usually if we want to do work from morning to evening, what do? We eat, right? So that is our fuel, okay? That gives us the energy to perform the day-to-day tasks, right? Like that, for in the farm also we require power, due to which the various works can be performed, okay? Now this power can be in the form of a mobile power or it can be in the form of stationary power, right? So if you say mobile power, there can be various sources to it. There can be human power, where the human itself utilizes its energy and draws the implement across. Okay, it can be animal power. The animal can be acting as a source of drawing the implements across the field, right? It can be mechanical power, where we are using certain machines, right? Then you talk about stationary power. We are looking at the parts which actually supply power. Okay, it can be stationary engines, okay, or it can be electric motors. Okay, so these are some of the examples from where we derive power to do work in the field, right? Now friends, there are certain terminologies that are used in agricultural engineering, because as I told you, it's a very good mix of engineering branch and agriculture. So in the rest of the chapters, you will not find these words. So let us just understand these words and then move forward, okay? So one is we're going to study about horsepower. Okay, so horsepower is nothing but the power which is required to run a particular engine, okay, run a particular machine. Okay, so if it is if you can see that, as I told you in the beginning, that if I want to do some work, I need to eat. That is going to act as my fuel. In the similar manner, if you want to use certain implement or tool, if they are not animal drawn, if they are not human being drawn, then you need some power to actually move that equipment so that it can work in the field. So this is provided or indicated in terms of horsepower. Okay, so now this horsepower, if you go into the definition, it is nothing but the rate of doing work. That is, this is an amount of work that is there. Okay, and this amount of work can be completed by me in so and so hours. Okay, so when you start calculating the rate, that is for 1 unit of work, what is the amount of time that you need? If you divide that, you will get the rate of doing a certain amount of work. Okay, actually that is nothing but our power. Okay, so when I say horsepower, I can also indicate this in terms of watts. Okay, watts is a unit of power that is usually used. Okay, so whenever we are indicating any tractor driven equipment or something, we are going to talk about how much horsepower is required. Okay, so you need to know that 1 horsepower, if I ask you to convert this into watts, you will say 1 horsepower is roughly equal to 746 watts. Okay, fine. Now there are other terms as well that are used. One is called indicated horsepower. Okay, see, just understand one thing, that whatever power is required to run an engine, okay, so suppose you're providing the power P, okay, now this entire power is not going to be converted into useful work by the engine. No, what happens is there is a splitting that is taking place. Certain amount or most of the amount is going to go into useful work. Okay, the engine is going to use that power and give us certain productive work. But certain amount of power from this entire thing that we are providing is going to go as wastage. Okay, now why is this wastage going to be there? Because of certain heat and frictional losses that is taking place. Right, so whatever machines are there, it can never give us 100% efficiency. Okay, whatever input we are giving, it is not ideally it is possible, but practically it is not possible to convert the entire input to output. That is not usually done. In between, during that transaction, there is a certain amount of wastage that is seen. Okay, so now keeping this concept in mind, when I say indicated horsepower, I am not taking into account or I am not subtracting the wastage. Okay, I am just taking into account overall what is the power that is required. Okay, you will understand this better when we move forward. Okay. So here you see this indicated horsepower is nothing but brake horsepower plus your frictional horsepower. So this is a total power that is required to run an engine that has two components, as I told you. This brake horsepower is the power which is actually utilized for useful work. Okay, and this frictional horsepower is nothing but the power which is utilized but not for any useful work, but it goes as wastage. Okay, due to friction that is there in the engine. Okay, so again now this equation needs to be clear. So indicated horsepower is equal to brake horsepower plus frictional horsepower. Right, so if you want to increase the efficiency of a particular machine, you need to make sure that this component, this frictional horsepower, is less. Right, so again the same thing is explained here for frictional horsepower, so kindly make sure you understand this. Okay, apart from this, there is a very important term that again and again you would be encountering when you are going through this agricultural engineering chapter. That is nothing but PTO, horsepower. Okay, power take off shaft. Okay, usually this word shaft is used, so it's nothing but power take off horsepower. Okay, now this is the amount of horsepower that is available for running the implements with the tractor. See, if you have gone through the tractor video, you would have understood that tractor in itself is also used for various operations. Apart from that, various implements are also attached to the tractor, and then the tractor is actually used to move those implements or run those implements. That's why whenever you talk about implements, you will see either they're animal drawn, okay, and you will also come across one word which is called tractor drawn implement. So what do you mean by this tractor drawn implement? That is, an implement is attached to this tractor, and whatever power is being provided by the tractor, it is taken by the implement for its work. Okay, so this is an indirect method of providing power for the implements to work. Okay, now what happens is these tractors, if you see, they have a power take off shaft. Okay, so it is like, you would see like a cylindrical shape this shaft is going to be there. In fact, at the end of this particular lecture or maybe in the subsequent lecture, we will also discuss that PTO shaft. Okay, so these tractors have this PTO. Okay, to this PTO the implements are connected. Okay, now when I say power take off horsepower, it is nothing but the horsepower that is available for these implements to run. Okay, now you need to understand one thing. Suppose if I am supplying a power P to the tractor, it is not necessary that the entire P is going to be available to the implement. No, the entire power cannot be used by the implement. Only a certain percentage of the power is made available through this PTO shaft for the implements to work. Okay. So here this is one important information, that the PTO horsepower is around 80 to 85% of tractor engine power. Okay, so if the power is P, only up to 80 to 85% of this P is available as the power take off horsepower. Now this power is going to be used by the implements which are attached to the tractor for its work, right? Okay friends, so we have seen the basic terms that are usually involved in agricultural engineering, right? Now let us talk about farm mechanization. Okay, so basically when we were at the start of this lecture, as I told you, in whatever operations that you're doing, we are somewhere or the other using certain equipments and tools. Now it's a different case that those tools can be manually driven. Okay, like a farmer can use a tool and start doing its operation, or maybe it can be animal drawn, or it can also be tractor drawn, right? Now when you start applying engineering and technology to these agricultural operations, why do we need to do it? To improve the productivity. We discussed this, right? So this entire process is known as farm mechanization. Okay, so this is something with the advancement of the technology, we are trying to come up with easier methods to do certain things, right? For that we start applying certain principles from engineering. Okay, so this is called farm mechanization. So now let us talk about farm mechanization as a whole. Okay, so now let us break this down into the various steps that come under farm mechanization, like what are the various processes that are involved. The first thing is we are going to do land leveling. This is very important, okay, because as it is, you cannot use any stretch of land for cultivation of crops, right? That is not possible. You need to make that land conducive enough for the crops to grow within it. Okay, so the first thing is land leveling that we do. Second is the seed bed preparation. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're plowing the land, you are making sure that the weeds are removed, okay, and there's enough aeration within the soil for the plants to thrive. Okay, that is called seed bed preparation. Then you talk about sowing. Okay, after you're done with the seed bed preparation, you need to start sowing the seeds, right? Once the plants start growing, you need to do weeding and interculture operations, because there can be prevalence of weeds after that. You need to remove them to avoid competition, avoid wastage. Interculture operations, that is operations that are performed on the standing crops. Okay, this is one of the tillage operations, right? You have fertilizer application, okay, you have harvesting and threshing. Finally you are cutting the crops and you are separating it from its outer parts, okay, to use the main core parts. So now these are all the steps in which you see that tools and implements are used. So we are making use of agriculture, we are making use of engineering principles in all these steps. Okay, so let us have a look at each of these steps quickly. Now let us start with the land leveling process. So basically when you talk about land leveling, it is nothing but we are finding a way so that there are no high or low spots that are present on the field. Okay. Now this is important because we need uniform distribution of irrigation water on the field. Okay. See what happens is, if there is a field, if you see there are high spots on the field, what would happen? This particular area will not be in a position to receive water. Okay, so here we can see, and if there are low spots, what happens is the water gets accumulated there, right? So we do not want this kind of uneven distribution, and for that purpose what we require is this process of land leveling, right? Now let us see what are the benefits of land leveling. Basically higher yield. Obviously when you see there's a uniform distribution of water, the productivity would be high, right? Then you have better weed control, larger farming area. Obviously no high spots, no low spots are there. So the farming area would seem large, right? Faster seeding, less work, better use of water, very important, right? So these are some of the basic benefits that we have when we perform land leveling. Then what are the equipments that we use for land leveling? Now friends, here is where our core agricultural engineering starts, right? So you need to know the examples, because sometimes even in the examination you might get questions like, out of the given options, which are the equipments that are used for land leveling, right? So you need to know that very well. So you have soil scoop, okay, you have scrapers, Okay, the scrapers can be of various types like buck scrapers, drag and box scraper. Just know the names of it. You have U leveler, you have float leveler, there is leveling board, there is precision land leveler, there's leveler with ripper attachment. Okay, now friends, what we have done is wherever we think we can explain, we will explain it to you within the video. Otherwise, the content sheet also has a lot of points. So I will make the concept similar for you guys, but you also need to go and have a look at the content sheet as well, right? So let us have a look at scoop, soil scoop, okay. So here you can have a look at this picture. So basically it is helpful in land leveling process we have just now seen. Now the angle of the cutting blade, okay. So this actually varies from 12 to 15 degree. So this is one important data point that you can keep in mind, right? So now let us move on to the second stage, which is a seed bed preparation. So basically not spending much time on this, but we need to know that for the seeds to germinate, we need to provide a very good suitable environment for the crops, right? So when you talk about providing a good seed bed, there are certain characteristics like it should have a uniformly firm soil of depth nearly 5 inches, right? There should be adequate soil moisture, it should be weed free. These are some of the general characteristics of a good seed bed, right? See, now we have understood that the second stage is important, which is nothing but the seed bed preparation. Okay. Now to do that or to prepare the seed bed, what are the operations that are usually performed? So the operations are known as the tillage operations. Okay. Under tillage operations there are various classifications. One of those is primary, secondary and interculture operations. Now we are not going to go into the detail because a separate unit is dedicated to agronomy under which we have dealt in detail about the classification of tillage. So it is going to be a repetition again. So just remember that for seedbed preparations, tillage operations are used. Now secondly speaking, immediately should strike your mind that okay, for seedbed preparation we are doing tillage operations using what? So here comes the application of agricultural engineering, right? So using what are you preparing the seed bed? Okay, what are the tillage implements that are applied there? Okay, so this is what is the scope of agricultural engineering. So friends, before we move on to the next stage, which is sowing, let me just tell you that we will cover the tillage implements as part of a separate lecture. Okay, so that is important topic and we need to elaborate, so not including it here itself. Now we saw that the first stage was land leveling. We saw what is the importance of it, why are we doing so, what are the equipments used for it, like we saw the picture of scoop as well. There are other famous ones like scrapers. Okay, there are levelers also. So kindly keep these important terms in mind. Then the second stage we saw was seed bed preparation. For that we perform tillage operations, the equipments of which we will cover as part of a separate lecture, right? So far so good. Now moving on to the next stage, it is called sowing. So first thing for sowing, what are the equipments that we use? Okay, the first one is seed drill here. Okay, keep in mind, important. Then next, there is a certain modification that is done to the seed drill. Okay, it is called seed cum fertilizer drill. So what is it? Along with the seed placement, you also have fertilizers being dropped, okay, or sprayed or applied. Okay, we will see how it is done. So basically when I say seed cum fertilizer drill, I mean seed drills fitted with fertilizer dropping attachment. Okay, and one more important thing, both these seeds plus fertilizers are applied or delivered simultaneously, right? Next you have other important equipment which is called planter. Okay, we will have a look at what is this planter separately in this particular lecture. Now before we move forward, there is one question that I want you to hold on to, which we will discuss in the further sections. What is seed metering mechanism? Just ponder upon this question, we will discuss it. Okay, so first thing that we need to keep in mind is seed drill. Okay, now you can see here in the picture, this is a machine, seed drill machine. Okay, and it is actually used to place the seeds in a continuous stream in furrows at uniform rate and at controlled depth. Okay, plus with an arrangement of covering the seeds with soil. So you can see it is doing a number of operations. The first thing is it is placing the seeds at an adequate depth, uniform depth. Okay, so in a continuous stream, you can see here okay, in furrows. Okay, and after the seed placement, it is also having an arrangement to cover the seeds with soil, right? So you can see how efficiently these processes are streamlined with the help of the various equipments that you use. Normally, if you talk about seed placing methods, okay, so there is a very conventional method that is used, which is called broadcasting. Okay, broadcasting means you're randomly just, you know, scattering the seeds in the field, on the field. Okay, so now you see that when you are comparing broadcasting and you're comparing the seed placement which is done using seed drill, how much difference do you see? Here everything is happening at a uniform depth. Okay, simultaneously soil is also being covered over these seeds. Okay, so at uniform rate also everything is placed. So you see the efficiency is getting increased. So ultimately this is what is the motive behind coming up with a mixture of engineering and agriculture, right? Now one other operation that if you carefully see, is initially a furrow, a hole is opened by these seed drills. Okay, so that initial step of opening the furrows is done by furrow openers, okay, which is provided in this particular seed drill for opening a furrow. Okay, now the seeds that are placed, they travel through the seed tube, okay, the seed tube, and then they reach the furrow, that is the hole. Okay, so let us see what are the various furrow openers that are used. So here you can see there are different types basically. Okay, you have shovel type, okay, you have shoe type, this is hoe type, and disc type. Okay, so basically do not go deep into what it means, what is its shape, but just understand for what it is used. Okay, when you talk about shovel type, it is best suited for stony and root infested fields. Okay, then shoe type, it is suited for black soil. Hoe type, it is suited for loose soil. Okay, and disc type, okay, it works better in sticky soil. Okay, so you can see based upon the prevailing conditions, different type of furrow openers are attached to the seed drills. Now just one important thing, like if you talk about shovel, okay, so basically there are two terms that you would hear often. One is shovel and one is sweep. Okay, so basically if you see, shovel is going to be a little bit of U-shaped, and sweeps are going to be maybe V-shaped equipments. Okay, let us just hold these two thoughts in mind. While coming up with the further sections, we will clarify this as well. So till now you need to keep in mind about seed metering mechanism and about what is the shovel and sweep. Okay, let us see in the future sections. So now talking further about seed drill. Okay, so what happens is, when you are actually placing the seeds, either it can be done manually. Okay, so this is called manually metered seed drills. Okay, wherein this part of actually dropping the seed in the furrows is performed manually. Okay, this particular portion. But in the case of mechanically metered seed drills, the very act of placing the seeds in the furrow is actually done by the machine itself. Okay, so a basically mechanical device is used to meter the seeds. So this is nothing but the seed metering mechanism, which forms a part of the equipment that you are using, right? So seed drill basically performs the following functions here. It carries the seeds, right? It opens the furrows at uniform depth. Remember, we are using furrow openers, okay, to do so based upon the type of soil we are working on, right? Then to meter the seeds, okay. Now this you see, this is the seed metering mechanism that we were referring to. Now if you are actually doing it manually, okay, a person is manually putting the seeds in the furrows, then it is called manually metered, okay. But if a machine itself is dropping the seeds, which is traveling from the seed tube through the furrow openers, then we call seed metering mechanism, okay. Then to deposit the seeds in furrows in an acceptable pattern, okay, that means at a uniform depth, okay, at a constant rate, okay. The last step is to cover the seeds and compact the soil around the seed, right? So these are the various functions that a seed drill usually performs. So now again coming back to seed metering mechanism. So it is a mechanism which picks up the seeds from the seed box and delivers them into the seed tube. Okay, and this is what is this entire mechanism. So what I told you, there can be situation when this particular mechanism is done manually, where people are actually taking the seeds from the box and placing them into the furrows, right? So it also has various types. Okay, this mechanism or this equipment which actually picks up the seeds and delivers them to the seed tube. Okay, so this particular portion of the seed drill can also be fluted feed type, it can be cup feed type, brush, picker, internal double run type, self feed type, auger feed, star wheel type, etc. Okay, so just know the names of these types. Do not try and dig into how each of these types would vary. So basically it is a small part which actually helps to place the seeds, okay, in proper furrows. Okay. Now the next equipment that we were having a look at is a planter, right? Remember, we were seeing one is seed drill, okay, and the other is seed cum fertilizer drill. As I told you, what is that? In combination, you are simultaneously placing fertilizers as well. Okay, the third thing that we were referring to was planters. Okay, now see, specifically the seed drills and planters are used to perform the same job, but what is the difference? Okay, so planter is basically used in those cases where the seeds that are to be sown are larger in size. Okay, so this is important. Fine. When you're using a planter, row to row and plant to plant spacing is maintained. Okay. So what is it? Now you need to go back to plant geometry. Right. This topic was again explained in an elaborate manner while we were dealing with agronomy. So I'm not going to take it up. I really hope that you revise. Okay. So just quickly. Okay. So these are rows. So this is row to row spacing, this is plant to plant spacing. Based on this, we have various patterns that are available, right? Hexagonal, square, rectangular, right? So just stopping myself here, otherwise I will open up the entire plant geometry here. So yes, this kind of planters are commonly used equipments. Specific equipments are also available. Like you have the potato planter, you have the maize planter, you have cotton planter. Okay, these are specifically used for these plants that are mentioned here. Okay, so next important operations that we were referring to is weeding and intercultural operations. So basically, if you see, we started out by land leveling. Okay, so immediately when I say land leveling, just try and remember those equipments like maybe scrapers and scoops, right? Then we moved on to seedbed preparation. Immediately when I say seedbed preparation, it is nothing but the tillage operations that are done. And for that we have separate tillage equipments which we shall cover in the further lectures, right? Then we moved on, we saw sowing is an important operation that is done. So for sowing, we saw three equipment: seed drill, seed cum fertilizer drill, there is planter, right? And then moving on, we have weeding and interculture operations. So this is also tillage operation, okay, but the difference being it is performed in the standing crop, that is intercultural or after tillage operations. Okay, so now you need to understand that it is good for aeration and it also facilitates better development of root system. So once you have cultivated the crops, you can see that still there can be a chance where there is certain intercepting of roots within the soil, or there is compaction of soil because of great heat that is formed. So in that case, you need to perform certain operations in the standing crop itself within the field. Okay, so those operations are nothing but the interculture operations, right? And weeding means obviously you're going to remove the unwanted plants or crops, and again for these things we require equipments, right? So what are the equipments that we use for intercultural operations? We have hand hoe, right? There is long handled weeders, okay, and there is cultivators. Okay, these are important terms, important equipments. Let us have a look at them one by one. Okay, so hand hoe. Okay, so basically first thing, manually operated, okay, weeding tool. Okay, so weeding tool used for removing the weeds. Now weeding is also considered an interculture operations, okay, and it has an iron blade and a wooden handle. It is very simple. It's a manual tool. Okay, so whenever it's a manual tool, you need to understand that there is going to be a handle. okay, for the person to actually get a good grip on it, okay, there is going to be a second part, which is here in this case iron blade. Okay, so obviously keeping the handle in hand, you're going to hold the equipment, okay, and the depth of 2 to 3 centimeter is achieved. Okay, and basically it is going to be a very small operation, but a prominent one, where you're just going to still the soil, try removing the weeds. Okay, and here you can see the coverage is just very less. It is just 5 to 7 cents per day. Okay, because coverage is less. First thing, it is manually operated. Obviously the coverage will be less. Okay, there is a capacity for the human beings too, right? Second thing, you can see the equipment is not very large. Okay, the handle is very short. You can see here just 30 to 40 centimeter of handle you have, right? And it can just come up to nearly 2 to 3 centimeter of cut. Okay, so you can see that you can infer the coverage, keeping in mind the features of the equipment as well, right? Then you have long handle weeders, right? Just now we were seeing that the previous hand hoe name itself, you can see it is manually operated, right? So basically there the handle was just 30 to 40 centimeter long. So because of the handle being short, it exerts a lot of pressure on the person who is using that equipment, because you will have a bent posture there. Okay, but to relieve that pain, or to ease the work of the farmers, you can use long handle weeders, okay, and which has obviously long handles. Okay, so the only basic difference between the two is their short handle and here long handle. Okay, there are certain popular long handle weeders. Okay, the names are given as star type weeder. Okay, you have peg type weeder. This is important, so keep this in mind. Okay, now there is a name which is given to these weeders because they are used in dry lands. Okay, so it is called dry land weeders. Okay, so one of the category of long handle weeders are dry land weeders because they are used in the dry lands. For example, star type weeder and peg type weeder. Now you can have a look at the types as we were seeing, the peg type weeder and the star type weeder. So you can have a look at the picture here. So the only difference is the shape. Okay, now here you can see here you have sharp teeth okay, coming out of the implement, and you have here star shaped. Okay, so the shape is different here at the end. Okay, let us just have more look or more information about it. So basically, first of all, let us talk about the functions. Okay, so functions, obviously it is for removing the weeds in line sown crops. Okay, since these are interculture operations that are performed. Suitability. Okay, when you talk about the peg type, okay, which has sharp teeth at the end, okay, it is used for clay loam and black soil. Okay, so basically you can see here that when you talk about these clay soils and all, they have a very less drainage capacity. Okay, the penetration of water is more and the holding capacity is more. Okay, so if you see in sandy type of soils, the water gets drained away very quickly, but in these type of soils it actually is retained within it. Okay, so you need certain thing which is very sharp. That's why you can make a linkage that, you know, peg type weeders would be suitable for red soil loam and sandy loam. Okay, you can see here it is it is having a good drainage capacity when comparing it with the black soil. Okay, so here you can use star type weeders. Okay, you have the coverage that is area in hectare per day. It is 0.2 hectare per day for peg type, and same thing 0.2 for star type, right? So some of the important points are basically explained here about the types that we were discussing in the previous section. So you can just pause the video, have a look at these important points, because these are the same things that we have been discussing till now. So friends, there can be other type of weeders as well. So till now we have seen the type of weeding equipments like hand hoe, right? We also saw long handle weeders, and these long handle weeders are also known as dry weeders. We had also seen that there can be two types under it. One is a peg type and the other is a star wheel type, right? So apart from that, there are specific weeders like the Kono weeder, which is used for paddy, right? So you can get a question as to Kono weeders are used for which crop. So you need to know this information as well. Okay, there's also engine operated weeders specifically. So let us just have a look at some of these features. So friends, when we talk about the corner weeder for paddy, you can see here the picture. It is very simple, right? So basically, the main motive behind using this is to uproot the buried weeds, okay, between the standing rows of rice crop, right? And basically what happens is, obviously, to remove the weed, it disturbs the topsoil, right? And because of which, even you can see increase of aeration is experienced, right? And the capacity of this corner weeder is very important, so kindly make sure you make a note of it, right? It is 0.18 hectare per day. Okay, so you can have a look at the picture here. This is a truncated cone actually, which helps in basically removing the top soil that is used for uprooting the weeds, right? Then you have the engine operated weeder. The first thing that you need to look out for is the field capacity, right? You can see that it is between 0.75 hectares to 1 hectares per day. This is important, so kindly make note of it, right? And usually what happens is a 3 horsepower petrol kerosene run engine operates the weeder. Okay, so this is something you need to know, that this much of horsepower is required for these kind of instruments, right? And you can also note one important point, that it is used for crops like, tapioca, cotton or sugarcane. So you need to make sure you remember the examples too. So friends, with this we have come to the end of this part of agricultural engineering, right? So what we have seen here in this particular lecture is that what is in general agricultural engineering, what is the process of farm mechanization, and what are the various steps involved under it. Like, we started off with understanding about land leveling, we moved on to seedbed preparation, we saw sowing, right? And we saw weeding and intercultural operations. So when we were seeing the weeding operations, we saw that the equipments that are usually used are hand hoes, long handle weeders and cultivators. So basically we are yet to have a look at cultivators, and we shall do so in the next part of this particular chapter. And in the next part we shall also see about the various tillage implements in a separate video. Till then friends, thank you so much and happy learning.